This is Nick Stoller. I'm the writer and co-director of Storks.
This is Doug Sweetland. I am also a co-director on Storks.
This is John Venson. I'm the editor of the project.
I'm Matt Flynn. I'm one of the two heads of story, along with Craig Barry, who left us a little early to go and help direct Lego 2.
Craig.
Very talented man.
I thought this would be a cool opportunity because this is my first animated movie I've been this involved in, and I didn't understand anything about the process. And so I thought this could be a cool opportunity for each of these wonderful people on this commentary to talk about how this all works. I can start with that the idea for this movie came from a personal thing in my life, which was it was very easy for my wife and I to have our first child, and it was difficult for us to have our second. We had to do a lot of fertility and stuff, and so this idea came from that because I realized having our second that it was a mitzvah to have a child versus it being just something that you get. And so this kind of came from that idea, and then I jumped into animation for something I did not know anything about. And Doug Sweetland came aboard very early on in the project.
Apropos of this being your first animated movie, I remember early on asking, do you want to maybe get another writer on that can be there every day while you go off and made Neighbors 1 and 2? And you're like, no, I'll be the writer. This is going to be good. What I love about animation is that you get to keep rewriting it over and over again. And then I remember fast forward 3 years and it had fully sunk in that it's a never ending process. And you're like, when does this end? Just the opening that we saw was a scene that got rewritten over and over again. I mean, I guess our movie was kind of interesting in that the middle part, once we found that, it sort of stayed roughly the same, but at the beginning and the ending is what ended up getting rewritten the most. Is that right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. This opening was the biggest constantly changing scenes in the film, and boy, we changed it all the way to the very last preview we had on the film.
Yeah, this opening scene was actually a discarded trailer, and after our first audience preview, we all kind of buckled down to try to think of a more fun way to start the movie. And we're able to, in 3 weeks, turn around a new opening, a new ending, and a couple little pieces here and there.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully it'll be on the deleted scenes. But the original opening was a full documentary, like in the 50s style, which is really funny because we all thought, well, it gets the info out there and the audience needs to know this, and this. And we started realizing that it played less like an entertaining film and more like an info dump.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was pretty boring, which is what people want.
Right. Yeah. Right.
I'll say, too, that the opening is like an incredible editing job from Mr. Venson. There's so much information is jammed into 90 seconds. So hats off, sir.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. The interesting thing about working on an animated movie as an editor is that on live action film, you basically show up maybe a week before shooting starts and then you do the edit. But on an animated movie, I show up sometimes 2.5 years before we effectively shoot or animate the movie. And so what ends up happening is I end up having a partner who's Matt Flynn on Storks, and we kind of start day one with Nick's first draft of the script. And I think it's a good throw to you, Matt.
Yeah, and the script does not change at all ever.
Yeah, that's the nice thing. That's really nice.
Animation, kind of our first line of defense is the story team to make sure that the story is coming through. So we have, I think in our case, we had 7 story artists, 6 or 7.
Yeah, let's say their names really quick. It's Craig Barry,
Yori Mochizuki, Jürgen Gross,
Ken Michiruni,
Ken Mitroni, Justin Ridge.
Oh, Justin Ridge.
Celia Gossman.
Yeah. We had Chris Paluchik and Teresa for a while.
For a little while. And I think Mike Smith was on for 2
Oh, that's right.
weeks.
Oh, my God. And Chris Riccardi did boards. Riccardi while he was also designing. It was a pretty core team, actually.
Yeah, so what we do, for those that are uninitiated in the animation process, is the story team will translate the script into a series of still drawings, and in concert with our editorial team, Mr. Benson over here,
myself and Stephen Liu and Chris Cartagena, Nalene and Jess,
we come up with the first visual pass of the film. We cut it into the story reel, and it gives everyone an opportunity to see how much work we have ahead of us.
Yeah, right. That's where rewriting happens. I will say there was a thread to the story. As the story changes and changes, you realize there's a common theme that you keep coming back to. And going back to, Nick, what you were saying, where this movie sprang from. I mean, at its core, this movie is about a guy who's obsessed with career, thinks that's his entire world. and then has that completely disrupted by a baby. And so, I mean, really, this movie at its heart is about parenthood, and it's kind of first-time parenthood, right? I mean, that's where, and
Right.
Matt, you were a first-time parent on this,
so-
and drew from your experiences a lot on a number of scenes in the middle of the movie.
Absolutely. When I started the movie, that was the week I found out my wife was pregnant. And
Perfect timing.
my son now is 2.5. So that gives you an idea how long the process is.
My daughter did some of the baby voices along
Right,
with your
right.
son, and now she's 3.5.
Right.
Wow.
Now she's 18.
Now she's 18.
She's moving out. For me, I was definitely coming at it directly where Junior is, like being more of a career person, even though I draw for a living. Then I had this baby that was really disruptive to my entire working process. But it was great to really draw upon those experiences.
I remember seeing you after you had your kid and being like, how's it going? And you were like, it's really intense.
Yeah. Yeah, I really wanted the poster for this film to be Junior just absolutely strung out with lack of sleep, you know, with bags under his eyes and 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, stubble.
Yeah,
Bird stubble.
That, to me, that's the experience of parenting.
Yeah. It's in there. It's in the movie for sure.
Yeah.
We do have bird stubble in Storks.
Is that a first? That might be a first in CG.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
We have to pay extra for that, I think. The thing that was really unique about this film, from my point of view, when I came on, is that it was an animated film, but it started from a real life experience, the idea of wanting to have a child. And I think Nick brings a real sense of depth and trueness to our film that I think another film perhaps wouldn't have had without your experience.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, this is incredible, a creative experience, but also oddly therapeutic. And every time I would watch the end, I would like weep uncontrollably, no matter what stage it was in, based on my own experience, which was both all the work we'd done, but also my own personal experience. But yeah, it was very cool. I'll say that like what was really interesting to me about animation is that in a live action movie, you have pre-production, which is when you're getting ready to shoot the movie. And then you have production where you're shooting the movie. And then you have post-production where you're cutting the movie. And then maybe you'll do reshoots. But that's basically the process. And in animation, you're doing pre-production, production, and post-production all at once. At first, it was very stressful because I forgot that we had 4 years to do it. And I remember seeing the first animatic of the first act, and it was like all animated movies not good, and having a panic attack and turning to everyone and being like, this is really bad. And everyone was like, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then like later I realized, oh, you have 4 years to do it. And once you relax into that, it ends up being really fun.
Yeah, and that, for all intents and purposes, is your first draft. So you have to sort of look at it in a very forgiving light.
Yeah.
That's your first draft.
They all start off terrible.
Yeah. They do, and then they get worse.
But then they get better.
And then they get better. Yeah. You just got to stick with it.
I talked to a couple of editor friends of mine who would say, what do you even do as an animation editor? Do you just cut the head and tail leader off of the shot? And, and I pretty much say to them, okay, imagine this. Imagine you've been hired to edit your movie, but you get to come on 2 years before you start shooting and sit with the director and your co-creators, and you kind of say, well, what if it's about this? What if it's about the military? No, that's dumb. Let's make it about corporate culture. And then when you finally say, all right, we all have consensus, then you shoot the movie.
Yeah, this isn't a knock against any of the editors I've worked with in live action, because they're all incredibly talented, but like we're all co-creators together of this thing in a way that like is a pretty amazing experience, but it's a different job, like an animation editor, than like a live action editor, I think. I mean, the live action editor, it's obviously a high art form, but you're way more part of the conversations. Like, I'll always give my scripts to my editors, but they rarely give notes. But this is like, it's not just that you're giving notes, you're helping the script and shoot the script and do all of that in addition to just quote unquote editing it, which I didn't understand going into this.
Yeah, the editor is this intersection of a lot, right? Of where the movie's made and then storyboards and then you. And you were very present considering the fact that you were sometimes off shooting another movie. But in those absences, I will say, I think Venzen did an amazing job of channeling you and staying true to your feel, basically, as this thing is being authored.
The really interesting thing is, as an editor, I end up giving up a big chunk of the editing process to be shared with Matt Flynn, who is, as he's storyboarding, is effectively doing a first pass edit in his mind as he's drawing it.
We kind of serve multiple functions. We're cameramen, we're actors. In live action storyboarding, it's much more about just getting the framing, to my understanding. But with animation story artists, you're really delivering performance. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Storyboards in live action, it's like, unless you're doing a giant action kind of movie, you're just doing the action scene. It's a completely different thing. Like, the storyboard team in an animation movie is, as you said, doing all of these other things.
Yeah, they're a mini film company in and of themselves, honestly. They're, to some extent, production designing and doing camera and performance all at the same time.
There's a charm to the storyboards that sometimes is really hard to translate once we go into full animation. Like, these 2D, like, often rudimentary drawings have a charm to them and a comedic angle to them that can be hard to like, once it goes into animation. And that's where, Doug, your job comes in. I mean,
Doug.
Well, and the amazing work of Sony ImageWorks. I will say, especially something like a Jürgen Gross drawing is just enigmatic, and it's so reduced and full of cartoon juice. And he did Glass Factory, which is an amazing sequence.
By the way, that line is done by Anton Starkman, who does Nate, also does that line.
That's right.
That's my daughter's drawing.
Yeah,
that's right. Yeah, everyone chipped in. Everyone had 3 jobs. The animators up at ImageWorks, they jumped on this movie with relish for all of the cartooniness of bird teeth, and then bird missing teeth, and then bird stubble, and eye bags, and face deformations. And so, I think they did an amazing job of capturing the feel of very loose drawings in CG. So certainly, hats off to both, honestly.
Yeah, Sony Pictures ImageWorks did such a phenomenal job on this movie, really realizing a style that I think is unique to Warner Brothers. It's in the spirit of classic Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
which is accidental. It was never a mandate by the studio,
Really?
which is great. I mean, I think that Nick has a natural, this is where there's a Venn diagram and we all have this overlap with an affinity towards that sort of stuff. So Nick, I mean, you have an anarchy and absurdism in your style that I think feels very Looney Tunes.
Early on, like Doug and I talked about it being cartoony. I mean, I don't know if there's another word for it, but it having a Looney Tunes element to it, just because the world is so absurd. I think if we treated it, actual storks are horrific. You don't want to see actual.
Yeah, right.
Benzin, John Benzin. There's our editor.
He's in the movie.
You guys made my mom so proud by putting me in the movie. Thank you. Thank you to both Matt for embarrassing me and Doug for fully realizing me.
That's the extent to which ImageWorks honored the boards, because Matt, you just put that in as a goof, right?
Oh,
You're like,
Yeah.
nope, Benzen's got Benzen stage. The kid stays in the picture.
But I did appreciate you asking me to send all of my caricatures to John so they would have some reference.
They nailed it.
The story is, I tease Matt a lot, and it drives him crazy. We have a very brother-type relationship. And so to get back at me, Matt drew me as the mailman, and I would blush terribly. It's the most tremendously embarrassing thing to have everyone in the room laughing when that scene comes up. And Matt, you loved every minute of that. Didn't you?
Yeah, well, you deserved it.
cathartic.
Yeah, you earned it really hard. I just want to talk about our cast for a second, and then also Nick's approach to animation, which I thought was Nick, again, a newcomer. Man, you were a really quick study on how animation was done in boards, and you bonded with the story team, and you understood that as the primary writing process. And I think that actually it dovetails into your writing process from live action, where you're working with actors on their feet. There are two primary ways that I saw scenes come into being. One was with Nick directing the Scratch actors who were professional improv actors, as was the case with Katie Crown, who came on for Scratch and stayed for the movie. And she's amazing. And I should say that scene with multiple tulips was a one-take bit by Katie Crown that just went wholesale into the movie. So one was expertly directed by Nick, cut by John, and that would be like the Wolfpack stuff. And then the other one was, Nick, you would say, wouldn't it be funny? Well, actually, I think the Tulip Department scene was an idea you had after a punch-up. Wouldn't it be funny if Tulip talked to herself? Or Silent Fight. You went to Justin Ridge and was like, wouldn't it be funny if there was a fight where... Or Glass Factory is another one. Wouldn't it be funny if they had to chase through a building full of glass and Junior can't see glass? I just think that's a very animation-based way of writing, and we got really, really great scenes out of that.
Yeah, it was very fluid, which is pretty atypical, actually. I think in my experience, we tend to have a script, and the creative core of the movie is dictated by the screenwriter and director relationship. But to Nick's testament, even with the story team, even with the art team.
Yeah.
I'm a very lazy writer.
Lazy/genius.
It works. It works.
I mean, I think that the huge leap for the movie where we found the tone was when we brought in Katie Crown and Chris Smith, who's a comedic actor that I've worked with, who did the Scratch for Junior before we cast Andy. And riffing with them, we found this great tone to the movie. Before that, it didn't, but we found it pretty quickly, though, with them. Like, once we did our first scenes with them, I think it was when they're flying in the plane. That was one of the first scenes.
Yeah.
Tulip talking to herself was one of the first scenes where I was like, oh, this is the tone. We all kind of like looked at each other and like, oh, here's the tone.
I'd love to hear something that totally surprised you about animation that you were not expecting.
I've kind of already said it, but the big thing that was surprising is with a live action movie, it's kind of an emergency from the minute you start shooting until you're done. And there's something kind of relaxing about animation. Like once you realize it's going to take a long time, it's one of the few Hollywood jobs it's like more of a normal pace, if that makes sense. I mean, that's not to say there isn't stressful moments and there isn't rushes and there aren't late hours sometimes. And it's just less, once you know it's going to take a while, it's like, oh, we can kind of fine tune this thing and polish it and carve it until it's like a perfect thing. And you can do it up until the very end. I mean, we changed the end. We had a test of the movie. We tried a really weird swing, which is actually in our cut scenes for the end. And people were like, no, we don't like this. And we got a bad score. And then we changed it, as you guys said, within a few weeks. And our score jumped 20 points. And you can change stuff hugely, which in a live action movie, we would have had to have done reshoots to do that. And it makes it really fun. You can try all kinds of crazy stuff throughout the process without really risking any money. Until you're going into animation. You know, once you're in animation, then it's more expensive. But like in storyboards, and I wish Brad was here because he also budgeted stuff in a way where even when we had to change animation, it was fine. He did an incredible job kind of keeping pockets of money available. Because this was also much cheaper than most animated movies, which is also kind of cool.
Yeah, actually, that's a thing that we should probably talk about Brad Lewis here. He brought us all together. He was like Charlie's, and we were his angels in a way. I mean, prettier, I think.
I don't know. I look good in a jumpsuit. Just want to put that image out there.
But Brad did a really good job of building a team of people that were good at their jobs, but also had the ability to work independently and also with the director, which sometimes can be hard to do. You might get someone who is great and loves stuff, but wants to punch the director. And that was never the case. There was never a moment on this film where I felt anything other than just pure joy to be coming into work, which is, it's wonderful.
As a place to work, Warner's is really great. And Brad is a huge part of that. And like you're saying, Nick, I mean, I think he and Warner's spent money really smartly. There's not overspending. It was a very small crew up front. We had a very small team of, 20, 24 people or something doing those years of work up front.
Yeah, when we first saw the credits, we were all making fun of Brad because no one worked on this movie.
It's like 7 people. It looks like going to do the front end of the movie. But everyone was essential. It was a great core group. And then I also felt like, Nick, I feel like Warner's gave you a very wide berth. They very much wanted you and your tone and what we all could bring to it. I remember when Christofaria saw the first scene in boards of Junior and Hunter being like, stare into the sun, look at it, look at your domain. Defaria was like, he's psychotic. Yeah, more. He wanted you to push Hunter to be crazier. And I just thought, wow, that's a rare thing.
I just wanted to really quickly redirect to Anton, Nate here in the film. Nate, his precociousness comes directly from Nick. We would have these sessions where Nick would be in the room and he would feed Anton the lines. And Nick, can you talk about that a little bit?
I wanted the movie to be, when I go to move with my kids, and it's usually an opportunity to nap, and I wanted this to be something that both parents and kids would love, that everyone would enjoy. And with Anton, he's like an amazing actor. I think he has a long career ahead of him. And he was someone that Brad had worked with. And when we started, I think he was 10 or 11. I'm not sure. But he has really good comic timing. And I would feed him these lines so he'd be a bit more precocious. And this was also an opportunity where we found our tone, was by not having just a cutesy kid who doesn't say jokes, but is like, he is precocious. He has like a point of view on it. And that scene that we just watched is one where I could always feel the parents click in and be like, oh, this is about more than just wacky birds.
Yeah, right.
There's nothing wrong with wacky birds. But that's like the moment you feel the audience click into it. This moment is great.
Yeah.
Jürgen Gross boarded that.
Yeah.
Flipping out of frame like that.
We should take a minute to compliment Doug for his wonderful work with the Gardner storyline. He took over the storyboards for pretty much that whole section, and he kind of was a tour de force, seeing it from story all the way through animation. And there's so much heart and empathy I think you get through it. So really
thanks.
Fantastic.
That was a huge, actually, honestly, it was a great opportunity for me to just keep up my drawing chops. That was a joy. You don't get to draw so much when you're directing, but boarding's great. And it was great material. Actually, that scene we just saw with Nate and his father, it was really clear to me in that scene that we have to play peekaboo with the dad. He needs to disappear, reappear, just so that ended up becoming the sort of the physical concept behind that scene.
Well,
The scene that we were watching right now, I think everyone understood that this was a really special way to make a movie. It was so much looser than we would normally do in an animated film. And even going with the gag of keeping the camera really static through their conversation, and then just to break out for Junior yelling at Tulip. We had to fight with our camera department because they didn't understand the nature of the joke.
The fabulously talented Simon Dunstan, our director of photography.
Again, testament to Nick for just really making it a fun process that didn't feel stale.
Actually, I want to give a shout out to Simon, our DP. He did a fantastic thing in this movie that I think is rare and unique among other animated movies, where he advocated for this post process of handheld. There was a point, Nick, too, where you said, I think this movie should be primarily handheld. And he, I think, was already on board with that idea. Basically, in order to do that in animation, you have to pretend that there's a live cameraman capturing a spontaneous performance, which means that after the scene's animated, you have to go back into camera and basically treat it almost like a third character in the scene. And Simon and I worked closely on that to give that feel that, oh, this is all happening spontaneously in front of the camera. The camera is live. It's a live performance, which I think helps add to this immersive, improvisational sort of feel of the movie. And again, like, it gives meaning to static shots then, like the ones where you were talking about, Matt, or like the ones during the crash where suddenly the camera's locked. But very much the camera is a part of this dance with the animation. I think it's unique and cool.
You'll see Simon actually has slight camera moves in the direction of where you want to lead your eye over cuts in a way that it subtly directs your eye so you anticipate the next cut. And it ends up making the film feel much more fluid and allowed us to make things very tight when we wanted to be without losing the audience. Because if you cut as tightly as we do in animated movies and you don't pay attention to where the eye tracking is going, it can feel like a confused, muddled mess. But Simon really helped with that.
Yeah. In general, there's just a life to the camera, I think, that you don't get in a lot of animated movies.
Yeah, it seemed like if the camera was grounded in a reality, the threat to this kind of movie is that it has no rules and,
Right.
you know, that gravity isn't real and all of that, just with an idea that this is silly and ridiculous. And so trying to ground the camera was one way of kind of grounding the movie. Another thing that really helped, and Simon did an amazing job, was Brad, besides being our producer, also did the lighting. And the lighting is the last part of the animation process. He oversaw the lighting. I'm sure
Yeah.
a lot of people did.
Yeah.
It was important for all of us that it actually be not too brightly lit, that it be a little bit darker or more contrasty than a lot of animated movies. Since the designs are so cartoony, it was a way to kind of ground everything a little bit. And also, it's really pretty.
Yeah.
It's something else that's good about Warner Brothers is some animation studios want corner to corner the frame to be lit because they feel like they're paying to have all of it rendered. So they
Right,
want to
right.
see everything.
Right. It's like keep the lights up.
But Brad really crushed the blacks. He gave a lot of contrast to the image. And I don't think Warner's tried to impose anything over that.
No.
There was nothing in the movie that this movie has a bizarre out there tone, and they never gave notes on that. They never gave notes on jokes. They only gave notes on story, and it was usually something we would all be aware of. The Wolves are done by the amazing Key and Peele.
Oh,
Yeah, oh my
Key and
goodness.
Jordan Peele. And they did all the Wolves and were so funny. And this is also, and Doug, you can talk about this, but this sequence I think is our most complicated, except for maybe the baby delivery sequence, our most complicated animation sequence.
Yeah, there was a version of this where we had maybe a third or a quarter of the number of wolves in the scene, and this is where it's really good to have your outside perspective, because I think I probably pulled back knowing it was really hard to fill that space with wolves. But when you saw the scene, you're just looking at it as a director and you're like, we need more wolves. We need wall to wall. Everything, everywhere you look is wolves. And Sony is amazing. Their discipline is amazing. They're a how high kind of a studio, and they did it. And their crowd department, led by Will, I'm going to say Moten. I don't want to mess up his last name, but I want to go for it here. They killed it. And then, Joseph, I want to say Hallmark animated this bit. I think he did the entire bridge. Hopefully that's true. These guys were so tight at figuring out technically how to do this stuff, which is real hard. They pretty much would show it and get first look finals. I mean, these guys are it's an insane crack team.
There's no way to do these wolves procedurally.
No,
Right?
Which is to say, have the computer
Right.
calculate it for us.
No, it's painstakingly hand done. But I mean, this is a thing where when you get an idea like this, which was another bonkers Nick idea.
Oh my God.
And you're an animator, and what the studio is saying, yeah, we'll give you millions of dollars to execute a wolf submarine. Animators are going to go crazy because they see how rare that opportunity is. With abandon, they throw themselves at it.
Oh my God.
And they just killed Sony.
I tried to cut this shot just for no reason, and Brad was like, "No, we're not. No, we're not cutting it."
The feet pedaling?
The feet, yeah, the
Really?
feet help a lot.
So great.
No, I
So
added
we added the feet.
Yeah.
I added
so
the
great.
feet pedaling because without it, the joke wasn't clear to me because it just looked like a cool boat.
Yeah. Right.
And so then I was like, "Well, can we add feet pedaling?" And they're like, "Oh, okay, we can do that."
yeah.
Actually, that right there is the key to your directorial brilliance, Nick, is if you would go, hey, can we add this thing? Can we add
Yeah.
500 wolves turning into a bridge? Is that something we can add?
Well, I forgot for the first part of the movie, I forgot that it wasn't live action, and so I suddenly remembered it
You're like, you can do anything.
when the wolf idea came up. Yeah, you can do anything. I was like, "Oh, right, you can do anything." I forgot.
Working with you, Nick, was a huge education for me. I felt like sometimes I was really watching 20 years of comedy writing and directing experience with you when you would look at a sequence like Pigeon Toady getting blown away at the end of Homing Pigeon Powers Activate. Very short sequence. It's already very funny, but you're like, he should get blown away. Just like you could see opportunities for little ads, which got really hard laughs. You had a different eye on it, which was great. The way you shaped it was something unique.
What are other good things about me?
You're very tall. I mean, very, like handsome and tall.
I remember sitting in editorial when you and John were cutting the wolf scene where Tulip is banging Junior on the head and then the baby's laughing. And the first time I saw it, I'm like, wow, that's cut kind of tight. And I found it disorienting. And you came in and you're like, no, this has to be twice the speed.
Yeah, right.
And as soon as you directed it that way, suddenly it like magic, it came together. Like, wow, this is a masterclass in comedy.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. The pace on this film, you kind of worry when you sit down to cut a screwball comedy like this. It's going to be nonstop. Like the original Looney Tunes shorts could get away with that pace. So they were only 7 minutes long. But on our film, it was like a dance, like a really fast part, and then it would slow down. And the Gardner scenes were always a good way for us to reset and allow the audience a chance to settle in after something like the wolf chase and the wolf bridge and the wolf fill in the blank.
The really cool thing in terms of comedy and animation is like I'll write a funny scene and then off of that with really funny people like Key and Peele, and then that radio play will go to the story team who will add a bunch of visual jokes. We'll go to Matt and the story team and add a bunch of visual jokes, and then it will go to John who will add more jokes once it goes into editing. Once it's all done, then it goes to animation where it comes alive and Doug adds a bunch of acting that is additionally funny. For example, the I agree. Once the animation was added to that, it was so funny. It becomes something that kids and I'll say some adults repeat over and over again. And there's 8 layers to it, which is normally with a live action thing, there's like 2 layers.
I believe that's Nick Starchevek on that, animating on that shot. That extends well beyond me into the crew, headed up by Josh Beveridge, supervising that amazing team. Dave Smith is the visual effects soup. That whole team is led by John Kreidman. It's just a whole other amazing crew up in Vancouver executing the movie.
Animated movies are almost like campsites. You have to leave the campsite better than when you got there. We kind of call that plussing. The idea is that every scene you get, you have to make it even better before you pass it on to the next person. That miraculously happened on every single department on this film. No one was coasting on this film. There's a deep love from every single department to make this scene, joke, line, music cue, everything be the maximum of what it could be.
Andy Samberg is kind of the unsung acting hero of this movie, just because he's doing something very difficult, which is he's playing cocky yet likable, which is very, very hard. And he's also a bit of the straight man, but is also delivering and landing jokes and also doing a weird performance when emotional stuff comes up. That's both emotional, but also very real and awkward. And it's a kind of an amazing, and this is like kind of one of those moments where when he stabs the rat, where you start to see like a lot of anime movies hit the emotional moments over the head. And it was important, I think, to all of us to not do that and to make something that was emotional without being like, this is the emotional moment you hear,
Yeah.
And I think we accomplished that, judging by how many people cry at the end of this movie. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
that might just be me crying. I don't know. Maybe no one else does.
No, it always works on me too.
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Steve Glickman is
Yeah.
every voice in that scene. I just want to say that really quick.
Steve Glickman, Pigeon Toady, maximum Pigeon Toady.
Yes.
A very divisive character.
That's right. It's a contentious point in a lot of test screenings.
Contentious. People either really like that character or really don't.
Or want to murder it.
You're either a kid or a parent, I guess is how it splits the audience.
Pigeon Toady he's the everyman. He is the man in the gray flannel suit, if you will.
Yeah, Glickman is just one of the funniest guys and
Yeah.
really his own best advocate.
Yeah. The amazing thing was when Nick was directing and we didn't really know who the character was. He was just kind of a know-nothing character. And so Nick, we get into the very first recording session and Glickman is like, well, what does he sound like? And Nick, to your credit, you were like, let's figure it out in the room. And you guys tried a variety of different voices.
It seemed funny that he has a California accent that's completely made up and put on. And originally we had him in secret have an evil villain accent.
Oh, yeah.
And we very quickly
Right.
realized that wasn't funny. And that what was funnier was a guy whose California accent is put on. It's
Yeah.
not real. He's using it to try to like ingratiate himself with people, but he's used it for so long that he's forgotten how he originally
Yeah, there's
basically the theory.
You
behind it.
have no idea who he is.
There's like
in
a
there
long, I
at
could write
all.
a book about Pigeon Toady.
Yeah. I wish
Yeah.
you would, please.
One of those defining moments for me was in the elevator scene. Originally, Toady was trying to back Junior and Tulip into a corner. He knew something was up. And then when we finally got the records back, he's just an idiot.
Yeah, he is just an
He
idiot.
doesn't realize that he just made up a game.
Yeah,
a game last
talking about a
night.
game that he didn't see. He is a perfect idiot. I just have such an absolute love for that type of character.
Yeah.
My towel blew away. I mean, there's so many quotable lines.
One of the things that was really different about our movie, we actually recorded with multiple actors at the same time.
Yeah. The parents were originally workshopped by Liz Kukowski and Brian Husky. They did an amazing job. Ty Burrell, obviously, and Jennifer Aniston came in as the final voices, but Liz and Brian did a lot to break in those characters with Nick. Again, multi-mic setups in the booth.
Nick, thank you for insisting on that. Normally in animation, we have one actor at a time in an isolated room because we change dialogue so often that I'm constantly repurposing lines from other scenes to make new scenes. But by having the two of them together, either Andy and Katie or Key and Peele, we had one session where we had all four of them together over at Disney. Nick, you want to talk about that?
I wanted to have the actors act against each other. I think from when we did our scratch with Chris Smith and Katie Crown all the way through the end, the final process, we almost always had everyone in the room at the same time. And so it allowed like the scenes to play out in a more real way versus it being so isolated. And oftentimes I find animated movies can have it can be too perfect. And I wanted to try to capture the kind of, I always like to try to capture the awkwardness of real human interactions. I think it's what makes funny stuff funnier and emotional stuff more emotional. And also just as an experiment, it just seemed interesting. And so that's what we did. And we did have a session where we had Katie, Andy, and Jordan and Keegan all in a room together. And it was, and the other thing that happens too is then you think of more stuff. Like the more actors that are in the room, everyone starts riffing off of each other, and you think of more comedy, which is very cool.
It's a quotable movie, as evidenced by children everywhere, especially my own, I guess. But the most quoted lines are ones like, I agree, I agree, I agree, I agree, just flew out of Keegan's mouth.
We were in a session with Glickman, and it's a bit right after he lowers the binoculars. And Nick, you just suggested, say, how do you like me now? And so Glickman did it. And then out of nowhere, Nick goes, start singing it. Sing that song. And Glickman, to his credit.
And he nailed it.
I know. Start singing.
Yeah, he has a great voice.
Yeah, he does, actually. All right. That's my favorite line. Awesome. So there was a whole pass. Didn't you have to re-record Pigeon Toady after a screening and then have him say consonants? Yeah, it's like you kept on pushing him into like a vowel-only delivery.
Yeah, people didn't understand it. In fact, I think a family member was like, I didn't understand what the pigeon was saying after they just watched it. And I was like, I guess we didn't do enough. I know. My only regret, I'll say, in this movie is not featuring that gold helicopter more. I wish we had seen the gold helicopter in full sunlight.
It blows up in a spectacular way, though.
That was a solid gold helicopter. Do you know how expensive those things are?
And how, like, they really wouldn't fly.
This was the very first scene that I did after my son was born.
Really?
Yeah.
This scene went on for a while, too.
It did. I came back from paternity leave, and I remember the scene was originally assigned to someone else, and I kept throwing ideas for how difficult parenting was in the process of learning to become a parent.
Yeah, you're like, no, more difficult.
And Nick eventually is like, maybe we should give the scene to someone who has a kid. I ended up doing it, and I think it's one of the more charming, straightforward scenes in the film. It's just a feel-good scene. You get to enjoy going on this journey with these characters.
Yeah, and tracking the parallel developments of both sets of parents. We have one group that's learning to be a parent, and the other group learning to remember what it was like to be a parent and discover parenting again.
Yeah, Doug and I ended up tag teaming this one.
Yeah.
Doug did the Gardeners. Yeah.
Starting with the campfire scene, but this sequence is where the emotional component of the movie, you start to feel warm feelings if you have a heart.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's also one of the moments I think that snuck up on all of us when making this film is it starts off so silly and unassuming, and suddenly you start finding yourself feeling the feelings. You know?
Yeah.
For me, the first time in this scene when Nate slides down that slide and Sarah hugs him is the first time I feel this kind of pang of emotion dealing with parenthood. And it's totally disarming because the movie's so silly.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Doug's storyboard for that, and my eyes messed it up, and I had to leave the room.
I'm sorry, dude.
I didn't want to give up my power.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't mean to emasculate you that way with my boards.
It was a weird moment.
It'll never happen again.
We had a preview screening where we didn't show Tulip meeting her parents because we're artists and we're dumb sometimes. And the audience told us pretty clearly, boo, boo.
Yeah.
Someone behind you who was really enjoying the film, and you said that when we didn't show the parents, we basically showed Tulip open the door and then she smiles and then we cut to black. That the woman behind you told me this. I'm repeating this. You told me that the woman behind you who'd been laughing the whole time went, "No."
She was not happy. Not happy. And so Warner Brothers, they were very nice about it. They were like, okay, we think you can probably do better. And Brad, our producer, who is a master chessman, some producers might go, well, let's take it down and really think through this and do the right thing. No, Brad was like, we're going to turn this thing around in 3 weeks, which I had never done before.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is we realized our opening was this long, boring documentary thing, which you'll see in the supplementary section. And then we didn't show Tulip meeting her parents, and we kind of lost the wolves at this point and made it kind of this weird Jasper scene. So in this 3 weeks, we managed to have Matt Flynn board this scene coming up right here with the Wolf minivan. Matt, how did you draw this so fast?
You did this in that 3-week period?
Yeah.
I did this, the opening and the ending.
Holy smokes.
My secret is I did not draw it fast. I just didn't go home for 3 weeks.
Wow. The minivan was something that you guys had mentioned before, right? I got the feeling that this was an old bit that you pulled off the shelf.
It wasn't.
But maybe it hadn't been drawn.
I don't think we used
There was
any
a
of the
card
original.
sheet at one point, so I mean, I thought it was sort of there.
I guess that's the power of good ideas. Good ideas come back.
Or laziness.
Yes.
We had
good
to work
ideas.
with what we had, yeah.
And I'd heard this described in movies that I'd worked on where just as an animator watching story from afar, you hear about like, oh yeah, core emotional ideas don't get into the movie until the very, very end. I was like, that's preposterous. The whole illusion of this movie is that it knows what it's about and then you make it. But it happened again on this one too. I mean, with the beginning and the end, this idea of Junior in the locker room, in a way, looking for friends without even really knowing it. And then paying that off in the very last shot of the movie when he's accepted into Tulip's family, right on the heels of her finding her family. I mean, it's like, those were last screening ideas. Is that right?
Yeah, but they felt really organic to the movie ultimately.
And it's sort of like what you're working towards the whole time, I guess, maybe without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Nick, I want you to talk about this beat right here.
This Jurgen scene's so funny. Boards.
We watched The Glass Factory and it seemed really funny, but something felt missing. And then I said to John, why don't you just have him run into that last piece of glass like 6 times in a row? It's like literally put it on a loop, I think, first.
Yeah.
What are the chances of that? I guess pretty high in a Glass Factory.
This is one of my favorite lines of the movie when Tulip goes, what's the chance of that happening? I guess pretty high at a Glass Factory. It's very fast. Funny joke.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was Chris Cartagena. The editor pulled that take.
Oh, really?
I'm forever grateful for him.
So many great enigmatic lines that honestly at another studio wouldn't be in the movie, but they give our movie this character because they're completely spontaneous.
Yeah, Nick sent me a copy of a tweet he read that said, there's no other movie in the world like Storks, which I think is awesome.
Yeah, it is, honestly.
The Key and Peele's final great joke, form of broken heart.
This is the wonderful Danny Trejo.
Yes.
Oh, Danny, yeah.
Danny Trejo killing it on Jasper. But also Eric Edelstein was our initial scratch guy who really helped workshop Jasper. Jasper was a tough character to find, I think.
Yeah.
For a little while.
I've always wanted to know, Nick, what's your take on Jasper? Where did he come from in your brain?
Honestly, the reason I think he was so hard to figure out comedically was because we just really needed him for the plot. Like, it was like a necessary kind of plot guy. And then finding, you know, both Eric did a great job and then Danny had kind of a gruff kind of voice that really made him seem like a dangerous character that I think kind of made it all click into shape. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie. It's sad. and funny all at once. I love this shot so much. And that was something that is very hard to achieve, and we all worked really hard to. Every single person involved in this made this scene very pretty and also sad and also funny. And Andy's performance here in particular, when his voice goes high pitched, is both very funny, and also the way he covers is just hysterical.
Yeah.
And in a different studio, it would have been an emotional, kind of cheesy emotional scene, and therefore less powerful, I think.
Yeah, I agree. It's amazing to work with executives that just let you as the director be as weird as you can possibly be.
Yeah.
I realize how stupid that is. I mean, I'm And then
There were a handful of scenes that John and I did together that inexplicably worked and took forever to either justify itself in the movie or get excised from the movie.
Right.
We had I think the bombing run scene as part of the deleted scenes. And it was such a fun scene, but it had no place in the movie.
It's totally so crazy. It was
And this one, to me, it is hard to explain because Junior takes a really hard, suddenly he cares, seemingly out of nowhere. But I think, you guys, everybody did a great job of lacing in just enough growth in Junior that it doesn't announce it, which is, to your point, Nick, I think what happens in a lot of animated movies, you see it coming. But it's justified.
He's also in such denial there, and Andy's performance is like, it weirdly hurt my feelings. Like, he's saying that it's weird to him, which is, again, makes it really funny. This shot always makes me messed up a little bit. This is the shot tilting up to them flying away.
You had always a great note, Nick, about the baby. You're like, I don't want the baby to have agency. You didn't want the baby to be an actor in the movie. The baby just sits there and just takes things in the way a baby does. And I think it was a great acting note.
Yeah, Nick, would you talk about that? Because that was our overriding principle on the film.
The rule of the movie is the baby's just the baby and has no involvement in any of the scenes. And at the very beginning of the process, before I gave that note, the baby would kind of react, or Tulip was mad, the baby would look mad, or the baby would look scared, or whatever was happening. But it just seemed way funnier. My experience with babies is they don't care about anything. They're just a baby. And it just seemed funny, like, if they're in extreme danger, the baby's like laughing, or the baby's like playing with its hand, or the baby's like, when they're sneaking through the docks, that moment where the baby is just trying to play peekaboo is like really fun. The baby's constantly doing weird, funny stuff, which is, I think, you could watch this movie and just look at the baby. And
a great example is at the very end when Nate realizes his sister's awesome. He says ninja skills, and you just cut to the baby just sitting there looking back at him blankly. It's a movie where any other studio's version of the movie, the baby would smile back at Nate and risk being cloying. And I remember thinking, why doesn't the baby smile? And then I got it. And I feel like that was me kind of understanding fully your tone, and that you make it like a really sly joke out of it. The baby's just a baby.
This is
not. Here's
Doug Sweetland as the cop.
Doug's as the cop.
That's not what I look like, people of the world, by the way.
This was inspired by Silence of the Lambs, by the way.
Yeah.
For those cinephiles out there.
Yes, the cross-cutting.
Neighborhood. Didn't expect to see you here, brah. Oh, yes, I did. I set it up. Seize the thing.
Hunter's plan makes no sense. We can now say this makes no sense. Hunter should just let them deliver the baby. It'll be fine.
We're talking about the stock.
We have a lot of explanations as to why he would show the stock market plummeting. But we bailed on that probably for the best. The faster you go, the less time people have to question the logic of it.
Exactly.
There was actually a petition to save a line that we set up from the final movie, where Cody originally would say, Hunter would ask what his plan was, and Cody would say, make a plan, make a stick, deliver a stick.
The usual stuff.
Usual stuff.
And that's what he said good enough to.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
taken out by
Brad.
I think it might have been Brad.
Out Brad.
But no, but let me tell you, for good
I
reason.
took it out too.
But yeah, because
Talk
It
about
got
it, Nick.
nothing. Yeah, I mean,
it got nothing.
we record the laughs. It was like silence, like the silence
Of the
reaction
lambs.
to that. I always laughed really hard at that line. Yeah, the silence in the theater was deafening, and it was just too. It was too much of a swing and miss.
Oh, honey, we spent time together, and that's what matters.
So is this like a ticket thing or a warning thing? Feels like a warning, right?
Yeah, we are warned.
In those 3 weeks that we were turning around the two different versions from one audience preview to the next, John and I keyed in on this idea that Pigeon Toady is only funny if we acknowledge as filmmakers that he's an idiot.
Yes.
Like if we make the audience think that we don't understand he's an idiot, then they reject him.
Yes.
You know, so we went through to each of the big Pigeon Toady sections, cut out of How Do You Like Me Now faster to show he's an idiot in his own head.
Right.
And anytime he was starting to take too much screen time, we would punish him by having him smack his head on the thing.
Yeah.
Or having someone undercut him, or he undercuts himself.
Come on.
That's Matt. That's your board, isn't it?
Oh yeah, grabbing legs. That was a Matt Flynn. I love Matt Flynn touch.
I love
my
that
only
board.
little
So pretty.
Yeah, it's so cute. It's funny because it gets a laugh in a really
so
sad
cute.
moment without
Yeah.
betraying the tone of the scene.
I find a lot of time when we're doing storyboards, as we make that transition into animation, your ability to change the story diminishes more and more. And so I think the way that Doug refers to it is using very little real estate to try to tell as much story as you can. And so you look for those moments, and you guys in animation absolutely just like made the movie so dense with wonderful story. It's just amazing acting decisions.
Get back to corner store real quick.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Junior, what is going on? What the heck is this?
This is StorkCon once a year.
One thing I want to talk about is all the visual comic transitions that we have in the film. Whenever you do an animated movie, you don't tend to focus on the transitions from scene to scene until you've really gotten the movie into a good shape. And we were watching Tony Joe's Every Frame a Painting. They had a whole thing on comic transitions from Edgar Wright, and it really influenced us to really do crazy transitions, making sure that people occupy the same space. We had to get them back to Stork Mountain. And we were thinking, well, we're going to watch them fly back. No, that is boring.
Yeah.
So
the solution on there was really great.
We just did that bam, 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 bam. And then we were back at Corner Store. And then we reprised the explanation of, oh, so you did that to get back real quick. Yeah.
Between Snatch and Silence of the Lambs. And
right.
Nick,
a lot of family classics.
Nick's R-rated comedies. That's where the humor of this movie lies.
I'll say another inspiration, which I don't know if I've ever even told any of you guys, is the end of Total Recall.
What?
The original one. Where it just seems like it's this conspiracy movie, and then the very end, they make Mars have air.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite endings of all time because it's so much bigger than anything else that happens in the movie.
Right.
And so with this movie, I was like, well, it should start with just like a baby, and then they should make 1 million babies, which is basically just what they do in Total
Oh my
Recall.
goodness, I've never heard that. I can't believe the 4 years of working with you.
Put down that baby.
The Madman, Justin Ridge, all over the scene.
Justin Ridge in like 3 days.
Amazing.
Order the scene did not change until the end of the movie.
pillow guy.
Basically did not change, yeah.
And if I can give a shout out, John Torello animated that massive How You Like Me Now shot Single-handedly.
Oh,
Every
it's amazing.
bird in that shot of Pigeon Toady is like that video shot.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
funny.
Herculean.
Nick, talk about how long it took us to get the sound effects levels right on that scene.
Michael Babcock did an amazing job. That was a really carefully calibrated scene. I mean, well, John, you had them correct from your first pass, and then it went to Babcock, Michael Babcock, who's an incredible sound design person, incredibly talented. First, we tried something where we pulled all the sound away and it didn't work at all. And then he added too much sound. And so jokes are really fragile. And the whole point of it was that it couldn't be something that would wake up the baby. And so we kind of returned to something that was close to your temp sound mix.
Yeah, and actually, Babcock said something really interesting. He said you have to pay attention to the level of people eating popcorn, that's like the bottom, the quietest you can go. And so he took it right to that level and just nailed it. And it's interesting in screenings where I've seen that scene, people actually stop eating and lean forward and listen to it because we've made it just quiet enough that it forces you to pay attention to what's going on.
Hey, guys.
This is very overwhelming. Handle that thing.
Come one step closer, and I will drop this.
Whoa. Junior, look, hand over the baby, and we'll let bygones be bygones. More than that, you can still be.
We haven't talked about Jeff and Michael Dana, the Danas, who did our score. They did such an amazing job. They did a delicate job with the score. Like, it's beautiful. It's touching. It's funny. It has a jazziness to it that I think keeps everything light.
Yeah, the sort of free jazz drum solo behind Wolfpack forming, that's like just brilliant, I think. That just goes into a tempo-less drum free-for-all.
Yeah, it's brilliant because it also, you know, my wife pointed out, like, a big thing I don't like in animated movies is when it gets too scary for kids. And a big part of that is the music. And when the Wolfpack forms, it's this jazzy thing. I love this. This shot is just incredible.
Right? Image works. Pulling out the stops. Nothing they can't do.
Also, you'll see the way we held out the revealing portions of the baby factory, when Junior and Tulip make the baby the first time, we really consciously don't show what's going on, and we play it on Tulip's face with the lights to save it for this. Otherwise, we'd have two baby factory reveals.
Right. But back to score, another one that's a moment coming up, not to spoiler alert. Hopefully you're not listening to the commentary before you see the movie for the first time. But Hunter will be smashing through here in the Megaloader in a minute. But when he falls back, gets caught up in the cables, the tone shifts really hard with the score. That's another one of my favorite moments in the score. You get this amazing choral performance. You feel the peril, I think, largely from, well, the amazing visuals in the score.
Yeah. Michael and Jeff are profoundly talented.
Yeah. Going back to Warner Brothers and Carl Stalling, Milt Franklin, we have a movie that shifts tone really abruptly at times. And, you know, it takes a facile hand to be able to do that really well.
I love watching kids watch this sequence. The smiles are everywhere, which is kind of the goal with any movie, is to make everyone happy. This is inspired by Interstellar, and then it's quickly not Interstellar.
Yeah.
But I was like, maybe it has to be super loud and really epic for a 1 second, and everyone achieved that.
The score is so funny over that section. Just full choir.
Yeah, I need this to be gigantic, and the Danas were like, don't worry about it, we got it. It was my first experience with the R-rated comedies I've done. I've never had a full orchestra, and it was that experience of recording with a full orchestra and choir and all of that was pretty magical. It's one of those, wow, I work in the movie business kind of things.
I wish Brad were here to speak to this, but I feel like in this moment during this sequence, we should just mention, I think we came in under budget. It doesn't look like it at all.
Wow.
Really?
But I think I can say we came in under budget.
Well, it's because we had Andy Samberg play all the babies. He's every single baby.
Every single baby.
Yeah.
Whatever the case, we did not go horribly over budget, and it looks like maybe we did. But I mean, again, you know, ImageWorks they made everything look like $1 billion.
Like in Total Recall, it was an intentional thing to kind of have the movie peak here visually. and to be the most colorful and the most insane. And I think it kind of works.
We struggled a lot trying to find this end sequence and story. We might have spent 25% of our entire budget on just storyboarding the scene for 2 years. And we had some fantastic work by our other head of story, Craig Barry.
Craig. So the Baby Factory was really one of the very last sections of the film that we really managed to get into animation because things were changing so much. And so I seem to remember Brad Lewis, our producer, coming in and going, we have to finish the climax of the film. He was right. He really grabbed us all by our shirt collars and made sure we got that thing finished.
It's important to mention that Brad was really pushing all of us to go above and beyond what we were initially planning on our condensed production schedule, but really pushing story to utilize the environment, to bring the charm in, just in the character performance and the cinematography, and then really pushing the art team and Paul to make the environment much more epic in scale and really feel colorful and dynamic for the culmination of the film. And I don't know how much he worked with you guys, but just the feel of that section of the movie is so spectacular.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brad's been working in CG specifically for decades, and it brings just so much more experience than I think anyone else on the show. And he can speak to an incredibly high bar and know how to get there. He had a leadership creatively on the show that got the imagery to a place that I think was beyond kind of what any one of us really expected.
As a producer, it's a really tricky position because you want to make sure to make space for your directors to do their thing, but also make sure that you also have a voice in the process. And I think on this show, more than any I've ever worked on in the past, every one of us, from story to editorial to all the way up to Nick to Brad, had a real voice in the movie.
Yes.
I'm deeply grateful for that. Oh, our Hans Gruber scene. That's it.
There you go.
John McClane, watch out!
I pushed for the movie to end here. I wanted the movie to end right here.
Credits.
That was
But
another
no
test
one
rating that
agreed.
went bad.
It went really badly, surprisingly. This idea was pitched by Kelly.
Kelly
Yeah.
Lafferty, our original script supervisor.
Yeah. Pitched this idea that she would flap his wing, which I thought was both very funny and also thematically totally on point.
And a little grotesque.
Grotesque, yeah.
Yes, we're a family.
That moment where Junior vomits to undercut the tension is why you can tell this is not a Pixar nor DreamWorks film.
Right.
You do not undercut the
We have way more vomiting. We have more vomiting in our movie.
There used to be
Yeah.
a little vomit when Hunter came out as a crane.
Oh, that's right. Someone
Oh,
laughed.
yeah.
Nick's idea, if I recall,
Yeah, that
was they look so similar. It was like he would pull off a beak, and literally it was the same beak.
A
And
crane that looked like a, yeah.
Cranes do look crazy, and he had this big clown wig. The cranes look like they were in a clown wig. And what's interesting is that when we tested it just for friends and family, people laugh because they're just as weird as we are because they're our friends and family. And when we put the crane reveal in front of a normal American audience, they were correctly like, what is going on? Why is he a crane? I don't understand. With comedy, you got to test everything. I mean, even when we had our weirdo test that bombed, everyone was pretty panicked, but I wasn't. I knew that it was just, we'd tried a weirdo joke at the end, and that if we just like adjusted it, it would be fine. And again, what's great about animation is in 3 weeks with a lot of work, but in 3 weeks you can completely change your ending without having to do reshoots,
Because you've
and
been
still try a
changing it.
weirdo joke,
Yeah. Change is a constant, so you get kind of good at it, I guess.
yeah, one of Nick's terms is joke swing, taking a big joke swing, which I find really applicable because having played baseball as a kid, I know the experience of totally missing.
Yes. And that's awful. That feels.
That whiffed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the silence that
The
follows.
swing and a miss is much worse for your movie than no swing at all, is what I've learned. An editor I worked with, Bill Kerr, that was joke swings, is his a swing and a miss is his thing, and cutting out as many swings and misses as possible.
Since we met, I feel the lightness in my step. You're miles away, but I still feel you. Anywhere I go, there you are. Anywhere I go, there you are. Late at night, when you can't fall asleep, I'll be...
The sequence clicked in pretty early.
Yeah, this scene was always in the movie. I remember you always pitching delivering of babies around the world.
Yeah, the wonderful Vance Joy.
I looked this up on various social media things, and there's just a lot of people who tweet or put on Facebook, like, I don't know what's wrong with me, I just cried at Storks. And I'm very proud of the sequence. We all work hard.
Yeah, this
Me too.
shot
This
right
shot
here.
in particular,
Yeah.
I'm mad about. Julie Bernier Gosselin headed up a team of animators and just killed this shot. They did every couple and baby in the shot. Many
And the main
babies.
the main idea is that everyone deserves to be a parent. Every one of us.
That bit in storyboards, I think Jurgen had storyboarded it, and Jurgen's drawings are really cartoony and silly.
Mhm.
And when the animation came in, I think it struck all of us how emotionally the entire weight of the film kind of hits in that one shot.
That's one of the shots that speaks most personally to me in the whole movie. I just get the feeling of the emotions that you would have to go through after repressing the wish of a baby after not getting one for 18 years. When I would pitch it in the animation, I would get all choked up.
And I always be...
I like that, like, we've defeated the villain. You think the movie's over after the villain's gone, but now there's a series of emotional payoffs at the end of the movie that ultimately, maybe to your point, Nick, it ends up wearing people down. You wear down your defenses. You can't resist it anymore.
Yeah.
Totally disarming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we filmed the audience at our last test screening, and there was a woman in the front row had to take her glasses off and like was wiping her eyes, and it was nice to see.
Yeah.
Sign here, and sign here, and initial here, and initial here, and...
Paula Sain, our amazing production designer, did this whole flowery thing, which was really cool.
I'd also like to have a little shout out here for Yori Mochizuki, who came up with this flying into Junior's head and projecting forward all of the major moments and milestones of Diamond Destiny's life. And Yori being the father of two daughters now, at the time only one, all he did was imagine all of the moments that would affect him the most as a father. It was one of those things that immediately locked into place. I think it was beautifully done.
Honestly, I think that bit helped get the movie made, because I remember being an early thing where like Cristofario was like, I got tear. It was the first emotional punch we landed, I think. And it stayed unchanged in the movie for basically the years after.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and the final is very similar to is almost identical to his storyboards.
You okay?
Of course. I'm fine. Oh, this does not feel good. Is every delivery going to be like this? What can I say? It's a terrible business. I feel so sad all the time.
That's my favorite Jasper line in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sad.
Sad all the time.
Because that is what it is to be a parent.
Yeah, Danny Trejo killed that line.
Enjoying it?
You know, I'm here if you want to.
This next scene coming up is probably the hardest scene in the movie after the opening. Just how much to show the parents. Matt boarded an early version where Tulip meets her parents, but it was just her parents, and it felt so on the nose, and you'd seen it before, and that's why I think we shied away from showing it. But the screening hits, and necessity being the mother of invention and all that, we had to figure out, well, we have to show Tulip's parents. So how do we do that?
Go on.
Matt came up with a great idea of it being a giant family and then pulling Junior into her family, which is like the final story beat that we were missing, because to show her parents without having a final story beat would feel kind of flat. And so there's a joke, and then there's a final story thing of Junior joining the family.
We were considering that Junior, in a much more subtle way, he's looking for a family too. He's only finding satisfaction in his work. And as he goes through the second act and comes closer with Tulip and the baby, he starts to feel like he's a part of something. So this seemed like the natural resolution to that even though outwardly Tulip admits that she's not a part of Stork Mountain, really Junior is not a part of anything either. So we wanted to bring them all together.
And it was all for this head nod right there where she says, you love it.
So
and
good.
he nods his head to say yes.
I'll also say that the Lumineers wrote this song, this beautiful song for the movie Holding Out. And this was originally going to be for the baby delivery sequence,
right?
But the tempo of the Vance Joy just fit better. And then we moved it to here and it worked great. It was just like it was one of those like amazing kind of miracles that you sometimes experience when you make a movie where you're like, oh my God, that song actually works even better here. And I was a little nervous about it, like ending with a song that's a little bit melancholy. It isn't, it's positive, but it has a little bit, it's not just like a pop song, which is how a lot of movies like this end, but it adds a nice classiness to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
emotional.
It's emotional, exactly. And so many tail credit songs end up divorcing from the emotion of the movie as a way to transition people out back into the real world or something. But in the same sense that these visuals are still telling story, you don't realize it. These are photos that Junior and Tulip are going to be pinning up on the baby board. Mm-hmm. The movie continues on through the credits, and it's great.
I would lie awake night, open little one day. I have waited.
This baby board's based on our OB-GYNs and fertility doctors has this giant wall of photos that look like this. And so it just seemed fitting to end the film with this as well.
Yeah, then making it exist in 3D space, because you just don't really get the scale of it, and you think, oh my gosh, that's a lot of babies. Well, hold on.
Yeah, these mains were a very late addition, and another, going back to what you were saying, Doug, is another addition that feels native to the movie. Like how could anything else have been there? But really, we came up with it at the very last minute.
Yeah, it's true.
You'll see we had a fairly small crew in Los Angeles. If you notice,
there went the story department.
That's the entire department. That's the entire art department. That's the entire editorial department, and then production, and then we get to the cast. That's really unusual for an animated movie.
Yeah.
We should also mention how amazing of a job the entire art team did.
Yes.
Headed by Paul Lassane and Sylvan.
Amanda Jolly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvan, our head character designer, brilliant. I'll say he designed the wolves in one pass, no notes. I've never seen that happen before. I may never see it happen again.
Yeah.
He clicked right in. It was amazing. And Amanda Jolly also.
Roy.
Sunman in.
I want to give some credit to Simon Dunstan too. He was as a DP, he was on the show very early and ended up viz-deving a bunch of sets, basically building rough sets and doing very rough set design with Paul Lassane, like the gardener's house and so forth.
That is straight Brad Lewis just having foresight.
Yeah.
You know, usually you would not bring your DP in until later in the process, but Simon was integrated from the very beginning, and I think it was really helpful to keep the spirit of the film.
It was a garage operation, as near as you can say, in a sort of big or medium budget anyway, animated movie. And I don't know, everyone was essential, probably did more than one job.
Yeah, speaking of that, you have Justin Shelton and
and
Jackson Lewis, who basically were the production managers, production coordinators, PAs, therapists.
Yeah, that's right.
Between the two of them, they kept editorial, story, and the art department running and on time. Those guys were great. Like, we couldn't have done it without them.
We did this movie in a hallway.
Yeah, the WAG hallway.
The WAG hall. It was fun.
It was such a great experience coming in every day and really feeling like you were just hanging out with your friends.
Yeah.
In the story room, we would have often Justin Shelton sitting in there with his coffee mug, just going around the table, coming up with stupid ideas and writing them on the wall. Like non-Storks related ideas that we called Ideas Digest.
I just want to say thank you to the editing crew. I don't do all this by myself. On this show, I had two other editors that were cutting alongside me, Stephen Liu and Chris Cartagena, and the assistant editing crew of Nalene Westcombe and Jess Fulton. You kind of become a family over the course of a 3+ year project, and they brought all sorts of weirdness of themselves and made its way into the film.
A movie is like an artifact of everyone's contribution, and so many hundreds of people worked on the movie. And I was one that got to work at WAG for the years of pre-production and then also work with Sony up in Vancouver for a year of production. So, I mean, to me, I see so many people's work, but the leads in particular, there's so much of Simon, Paul, yourself, John, obviously Nick, Brad, Matt, and Craig and Story. It's cool as you get to know people over the course of years on a movie that you then have this huge souvenir of everyone kind of in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick. Thank you so much. This was an amazing movie.
And
Thanks, guys. Thank you for listening, everyone.